It's Vincent here, founder of the Property Marketing Academy, where I teach real estate agents and property owners how to market property more effectively so that you can achieve the best possible price and avoid underselling. Have you ever been in a position where you're wondering about how far do you go with presentation when it comes to putting your property on the market and trying to achieve the best possible price out there? Well, me too. We've been in a position where we thought about selling our property and we were wondering about, do we do the bathroom, do we paint, do we replace some carpets? You start to look at your property through a different set of eyes, and because you're living in the home all the time, you suddenly go, oh yeah, this thing needs fixing or that needs fixing. And yet when a buyer comes through a home, oftentimes they'll spend about 15 minutes looking through and wandering through the home. So what I've put together is these 3 must-haves when it comes to presenting your property out there in the marketplace. But how I've arrived at these was, I've been in real estate for over 20 years now, and I've helped over 1,000 families buy and sell properties. And one of the things I've discovered is that it's not necessarily about your property presentation. A lot of it's to do with finding the buyer who has an emotional connection to your home. And that particular buyer who has that emotional connection will invariably make certain compromises to be able to live in your home. So they may not turn around and actually discount the value of your home based around that it needs painting or it needs some new carpet or it needs things, because they actually see a lot of other value in other parts about your property. So it's important when you are thinking about putting your property on the market that you don't go too far down the path of investing too much time and money and energy in the presentation to the point where you're actually over-capitalizing. And it's important to make sure that you get some advice around that before you start to venture down that way. Because it was interesting, one of our clients, they invited me out to have a look at their place. They invited a couple of agents out, and their bathroom was atrocious. It was basically, it had to be gutted. It was one of the worst I've ever seen, and it was barely functional. And it was interesting because the other agent was basically saying, look, the bathroom's going to be a real issue. And the client said to me, Greg, what should we do about the bathroom? And I actually said, just leave it, because your property is in such a unique location that people are going to come in there, actually going to buy the property based on the location, not necessarily the bathroom and the lack of functionality on that particular bathroom. Because there was a second bathroom, an ensuite out in the garage that they could use while they repaired that if they wanted to. But also the way it was set up, this particular home was either ideal for an investor or someone who potentially wanted to knock down and rebuild, because there was a beautiful big 2-story home right next door, and there's an opportunity there for someone to actually do that and I'd say, you know, end up with a brand new home in a beautiful setting. But also there was another buyer who had that potential to come in and maybe want to renovate, and we found that exact buyer. And it was interesting because the layout of the home, when they were talking about extending onto this particular home, they were actually going to look at putting a hall right where that bathroom was. So even if they'd put a brand new bathroom in there and this buyer was the ultimate buyer, they would have actually ripped that bathroom out and it would have been a complete waste of money. So it's interesting how these things can play out sometimes, and we ended up selling the property for $18,000 more than what the other agent actually thought that they'd be able to achieve for it. But I didn't want to go down too far into that side of it, but just understanding that it's nowadays, it's changed. This whole property presentation side of things, it's a lot about that emotional connection and creating that emotional connection. And the other side of it is this presentation. The old days, it used to be that you'd have the coffee brewing in the home and try to appeal to people's senses while they're actually walking through the property. But you can't smell the coffee now when you're searching for a property over the internet. It doesn't matter how beautiful the aroma is in your home, if the property is not presented the right way over the internet, well then you're going to be in a position where you're going to miss out on buyers that way too. So what we've done is, it's interesting just the way this whole new dynamic has changed, and it's helping to be able to put together this framework around this 3 must-haves when it comes to property presentation. And the first one is what I call the property presentation itself, the actual appearance of the home. Now, when someone comes through your property, it's how you've got the property styled, how you've got the painting done, and you've got the furniture set up. It's even things down to when we had a place for sale just a few weeks back, we were in a situation where they went out prior to the open home and they went to the local fruit store and they bought the brightest yellow banana, the brightest orange that they could get, the brightest green Granny Smith apples, and put them into a fruit bowl, and it just made such a difference to the feeling in the home. And they also had some candles burning and those sorts of things. So they were very, very inexpensive things that they did from a property presentation point of view, and having that appearance and the feel and the whole ambience around the home. Plus they also had some nice background music and those sort of things playing as well. So that's a really, really important part once you get the person to actually come and visit your home. But that is the hardest part nowadays with the internet, because a lot of people are doing what I call the online inspection, and if you're not getting them to come to your home and actually going through to do that physical, what I call a validation inspection, no matter what you do in the home, burning candles, nice beautiful fruit and all of those things, it's not going to help you to sell unless you can actually get the people to come to the home. So the second part of your presentation is how your property is represented out there in the marketplace. And I call that the portrayal of your property. How your property is portrayed out there into the marketplace, whether it be via print media, your signboards, your internet advertising. All of those marketing mediums actually help to generate the inquiry and get the people to come to see your property and its physical appearance. So the portrayal is the second part of the presentation. Like I said, it's how it's represented. And then when you actually get people to come to the home, on the back of that marketing, the last part of it is the representation. This is absolutely vital, because how your agent actually deals with the client when they're answering the phone calls, when they're responding to emails, when they're meeting the people at the open home. How's your property presented at the open home? What does their brand look like? Are they in a position where the agent is a good communicator? Are they able to enhance the whole transaction? Is your property being dealt with professionally? The representation is an absolutely vital make or break part of the whole transaction. There are some people out there who will say, I will never ever buy a property from that particular agent because of how badly they were dealt with when it comes to customer service. You've probably had that experience yourself, where you've gone out and maybe looking at buying a car or buying anything, and if you're dealt with badly, well then what happens? You don't go back. And it's really, really important that this third component, this representation part of the presentation, is a part that you really decide upon. When you're employing your agent, you've got to feel comfortable with the person and how that company is actually going to represent you out there in the marketplace. So just a recap on these. This is your property presentation. So the physical part of the presentation. The second part is how your property is represented to the market. And this is like the gateway to getting you a good price. Because if the property isn't marketed properly to entice buyers to your home, no matter how good the physical appearance, you're going to miss them because they're going to click away from your property and they're going to go to another one. They're going to go through what I call the deselection process, where they'll say, yes, we'll have a look at this home, no, 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 yes, we'll have a look at that home, no, 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 yes, we'll have a look at that one. So you want to be one of the yeses, and that's done via your portrayal of your property. And then lastly, as I said, the representation, how your agent actually conducts themselves and provides customer service out there and makes it easy for people to buy your home and makes it a really nice experience. So one of the things I have found with this, there's some major mistakes that need to be avoided out there from an agent's perspective. And it's probably a bit of a combination between the property owner and the agent, in that the property owner may be in a situation where they want to try to avoid spending too much money out there in the marketplace. But nowadays, things have changed. It's a bit like the mechanic and their parts. We're now in a situation where there are certain parts and components that you've got to look at using out there to market a property really effectively. And then there's the labour component. So it's a bit like that in real estate now, where you've got the parts of what we need to use for floor plans, professional photography, the internet sites, print media, photo signboards, all these different things that we actually need to build up the marketing component and that portrayal of your property, that are all just necessary parts to make the whole thing run. And yet, on the other side of it, the agent and everything they do from a representation point of view is basically that labour cost. So that's just how it's working nowadays. But one of the things I'm seeing is a lot of properties out there that are being poorly marketed, and it's costing homeowners just thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's got to be one of the greatest travesties of this whole industry, is the amount of money people are losing out there in the marketplace because their property is being poorly marketed. So whatever you do, just make sure you're in a position where you appoint an agent who really understands how to market a property the most effective way out there, and who is across all the different mediums and understands how they work and understands buyer and consumer behaviour. Lastly, one of the important parts is, and this is one of the steps I would look at from here, is that each particular property needs to be looked at in isolation. Your property is different to the next person's property down the street, to the next door neighbour's home. And what we do is, I'll go through a property and I'll actually go from the letterbox all the way back to the back fence. And I'll itemise little things that I think that you may want to do. You might want to put a roll of turf over here, or you might want to just move this piece of furniture around here, or declutter that corner, or whatever. We'll look at where's the best angle for the photographs, all these different things that we'll look at from a marketing perspective. And we'll also look at outside of the property. What are some of the things that are going to really help to attract people to not only the home but to buy in your area? So it's important when you are looking at getting an agent to come out and have a look at your home, before you start to spend too much money on the property presentation, on this appearance component, make sure that you're not overcapitalising. Get a professional in to give you some advice around what you should and shouldn't do out there to achieve the maximum price out there in the marketplace. So if you need any help with this, if you'd like me to pop out and have a look at your property, more than happy to do so. Just get in touch with me, and I hope you found this presentation's 3 must-haves framework extremely helpful and allowed you to understand how important some of these parts of the presentation are out there in today's marketplace. So thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to catching up with you in the next video. See you then.